I lost almost 2 hours of my life watching this pretentious, awkward, tedious, repetitive nonsense masquerading as a film.
Michael Bay left a review on IMDb.
This is an in-your-face director's overindulgence in experimenting and lacks even the pretense of trying to tell an entertaining story.
Oh, that's...
That could apply to most movies, but not this one.
You'll need a strong motivation to sit through this indulgent mush of an experiment in viewers' goodwill.
My motivation is good movies?
Indulgent Mush was my nickname in college.
Ew.
Don't think too hard on it.
That is a 1-star review from IMDb. Hello and welcome everyone to Spoilers Intended, a podcast.
Mush strikes again.
And films.
A podcast about series and films. I'm Steven, joined as always by Andrew.
Hello.
And over there is some indulgent mush.
It's me, the old musher.
Also known as Ryan.
That's me. Hi.
All right. So for this episode, we are talking about Wes Anderson's classic. Can I call it a classic? I'm going to call it a classic.
You can call anything a classic if you want to.
So,
Wes Anderson's film, movie.
That's the most generic.
cinema.
You sound like an AI trying to describe something.
Wes Anderson film, cinema, movie. So let's kick this off with a little synopsis.
You didn't even say the name.
I said Grand Budapest Hotel.
Did you?
I don't know if he did.
I don't think you did.
I said Wes Anderson's classic, if you can call it that, Grand Budapest Hotel.
Okay.
Maybe we just talked over it.
We did.
Sure
I think we
yeah.
steamrolled right over
They just
it.
ignored it. It's fine. So, this was released in 2014 and is all about a writer who encounters the owner of an aging high-class hotel who tells him of his early years serving as a lobby boy in the hotel's glorious years under an exceptional concierge. All right, so all I'm going to say is I've never seen this film until watching it for this review.
Yeah.
My wife had never seen this film until watching it for this.
You've also never seen a Wes Anderson film.
This is my first Wes Anderson film.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I pulled it up because Lauren was like, well, I don't know do I want to watch this with you? I don't know. Well, what's it about? I pulled up the song. I read that, and we both sat there dumbfounded. We were like, okay, look, I got to admit, I didn't know what Grand Budapest Hotel was about, but I
didn't think it was this.
Yeah. I had no idea what it was going to be, right?
Yeah.
Well, tell us.
Well, I did. I gave you a synopsis.
That was the synopsis.
All right, well, let's knock out some basic info and then give
Yeah.
them some opinions.
Let's go for it.
So
Yeah.
this was released in 2014,
Yep,
as
yep,
mentioned, already directed by Wes Anderson.
Yep.
So this is starring Ralph Fiennes.
Rafe. Fun.
Rafe. Yeah.
Rafe.
Yeah, we talked about this before.
It's
and I
spelled
still don't
Ralph,
still-
but it's
it
pronounced
sure is.
Rafe.
I look at it, I'm just like, that's Ralph.
I always say Rafe Fiennes, but I know it's fine.
So what's
Yeah.
funny is I asked Ryan before this, I was like, so how do you pronounce Ralph Fiennes? And he's like, well, first of all, it's Rafe. It's like, crap, that's not the word I was worried about. I thought that was easy.
I thought I had Ralph in the bag.
Anyways, Rafe Fiennes.
Ralph.
F. Murray Abraham.
Yep.
Adrian Brody. Willem Dafoe, Jeff Goldblum, Jude Law, Edward Norton, Tony Revolori, Tilda Swinton, Owen Wilson, Edward Norton, and Saoirse Ronan.
Yep.
I didn't mispronounce that name.
Her name, I've been calling her Sarosi for like decades.
Cirrhosis back on screen.
Cirrhosis.
So music by
Did you have William Dafoe in there?
I did.
Yeah, he
Okay.
did. Yep.
Yeah. Man, I'm just I'm just not hearing anything right now. My monitor's not working. I don't know what's happening.
Is my brain wearing off on you where things just don't stick?
I was struggling. So I'm glad that we had that pause because I looked at music by. I was like, well, that's wrong too. Apple really wants to change. Alexandre Desplat. But it said it had Alexandra. And it's like, well, I know that's not right.
That's not
It's
it.
Alexandra.
It's Alexander Desplat.
Okay,
That sounds like, the noise when you drop something out of a balcony.
That's the moment when your buttered toast falls out of your hand and you know it's coming down buttered side.
Oh, every time.
Every time.
Right onto a cat that immediately lands on its feet. And
Solve that
smashes it.
problem, physicist.
It's just infinite energy.
This is it. Is how we power the world.
Calm down, climate change. We got your fossil fuel solution right here.
So you put two pieces of toast on opposite sides and it can't decide which way to make it hit.
Okay.
Anyways, back to the movie.
No, you put it butter side up on a cat's back, and then it wants to land feet down, but the butter has to hit the ground first.
Yes.
All right. So, anyways,
I'll send this up to the boys in the lab after the episode recording.
So,
continue.
He is known for The King's Speech, Argo, Asteroid City, which is a recent Wes Anderson, and then also my notes are weird. Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. I just put GDT, assuming that I would know. So I looked at it from those. The heck is GDT?
I abbreviated myself out of.
Pat Steven was a
the thing
jerk.
is, I was worried that Apple was going to correct it, and I was going to screw it up. So I looked down. I was like,
Yeah.
So this is made on a budget of $25 million.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Right.
That's actually really low.
I would think that the paychecks for just the actors alone would be more than $25 million.
Well, I think because it's kind of like an indie-ish film.
Yeah.
A lot of them are just like, yeah, whatever.
And they probably,
So-
I think a lot of them are like personal friends with Wes
And
Anderson.
they just have a lot of fun
They're
with
just
it.
like hanging out.
Well,
yeah.
I feel like when you have these directors like Wes Anderson,
Christopher
Nolan,
Nolan.
who always have like this big stable of ensemble cast that they can call on. One, they must be really fun to work for.
Yeah.
Because they're like, hey, I could get paid and do like this grueling shoot in the middle of nowhere where I gotta wear, I gotta do 8 hours of makeup. Or I could show up to Wes Anderson's film where I don't even have to pretend to have an accent for whatever weird
and
region
just
he chose
stare
us
at
to
the
be in.
camera.
Yeah, and just
deadpan.
blankly. Yeah. Box
That
office.
is Jeff Goldblum's wheelhouse right
Oh,
there.
man. And he does it with a plume.
Dude, when we get into the trivia on this film, oh man, let me tell you, I had some fun.
Yeah.
So box office on a budget of $25 million, $173 million.
Okay.
That's quite solid.
I mean,
honestly.
that's a really good return.
That's a good
It's
return.
quite-
Yeah, for
quite a
sure.
return. So this is a unconventional, and that's in quotes, adaptation of Stefan Zweig's memoir, The World of Yesterday.
Oh, interesting.
I didn't know
I
it was
didn't know it was
based
based
on-
on anything.
Again, unconventional. They have almost nothing in common.
Okay.
Besides
It's
maybe
just-
the
it's-
name.
They got the title.
Well, it's kind of. I think it's the way the story is framed, like the concept of a writer talk, like.
Oh,
because
like
we start the film, and it's like a book written by an author that's a story of
That's
him
being
meeting, and
read by someone else.
Yeah, it's like this weird framing thing going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's get into it. Give me some thoughts here.
So I'm not a big like Wes Anderson stan. I've seen a lot of his films.
And we know at least one guy whose wedding was Wes Anderson themed.
Oh, wow. Really?
So like the scale is out
different.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, like I really
He's a
enjoy
patron. Hi,
this.
Ken.
I really enjoy this movie quite a bit. I think this is probably one of his best, if not his best one that he's done.
That disappoints me.
So
That disappoints me.
keep going.
Well, yeah. Well, so like the only other one that I would really, because I've seen Asteroid City, the newest one, and then Moonrise Kingdom and Life Aquatic, and those. I thought Moonrise Kingdom and Grand Budapest really hit a really good stride for him. Where like Asteroid City was a little bit too Wes Anderson for me. This one feels
He's kind of leaning into the memes.
yeah.
at this point.
This one feels like the kind of like peak of his like earnest to have his own specific style with also not leaning into the style to just lean into it.
Where like
Right.
it becomes a trope or a cliche.
Yeah.
It feels
Yeah.
fresh.
Yeah. And I really like the story with this one because you have like there's actually some really good like World War II style intrigue in there,
And all like made up countries, everything else.
yeah. And Ralph Fiennes does a fantastic
It's the
job. Just because he does a really good portrayal of just this, not a great person, but
He is what we call an eccentric character.
But
Yes.
he's endearing.
he is.
And he has
Yeah.
he has
Well,
one
he-
heck of a story.
Well, and
right?
that's the thing too is he has his morals and he will absolutely
he has
stick by
he has
them.
his code.
Yeah.
His code is not necessarily what we would consider typical morality.
Yes.
But he sticks to his code. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
So I'm curious what you guys think.
Yeah, so I really like this movie. I love Grand Budapest. It's probably not my favorite Wes Anderson movie, but I think
Okay.
the argument could be made that it might be his best movie.
Yeah.
But like my whole trajectory with Wes Anderson
disappointing.
is different in that like I have emotional stakes with other movies of his that put them higher on my list.
Gotcha.
And that's
So
because
what
they
would those
hit.
films be? Give me
Okay,
a
so the
list.
first movie I ever saw was Royal Tenenbaums.
See, I was surprised Andrew didn't bring because that's the one that I
Yeah.
hear a lot.
It's probably my
fine.
favorite because it's my first entry to Wes Anderson.
Gotcha.
And it's not a bad film by any means.
I love
like,
it. It's-
yeah,
it's
like it's a
fantastic.
good
Yeah.
movie. It's just not really one of mine that
All right,
like I
what's
vibe
next?
with.
What's next
So
on the
okay,
list?
so
Give me-
first
keep
movie
going.
I saw was of his was
yeah.
Tenenbaums, and I saw it after it came out to rent, and I watched it, and I was like, what? Like it was such a for me, a fresh
It's a different
take on
yeah.
a different style that I went back and I watched Rushmore after that, which was the first time I had seen Jason Schwartzman in anything, which just floored me. I loved Jason Schwartzman after that one. And I love Bill Murray anyway, so Rushmore is just classic.
Right, yeah, okay.
And I'm stepping back. Then I went to his first film, Bottle Rocket. With Luke and Owen Wilson,
Yeah.
right? Which is definitely the least Wes Anderson movie.
I like both of them. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I feel like Luke Wilson
it's
is a
not
little under.
I like Bottle Rocket. I've talked about. I used it on one of the as like a pick for something on one of these.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, like a heist movie because it's kind of a heist. But it's very raw, and to me that's good in some ways because it's like it's before he's
fresh.
perfected everything.
Yeah.
But I love Life Aquatic.
All right.
As another
this
one.
whole catalog.
Well, I'm just trying to walk through like I think Darjeeling Limited is the one that emotionally resonated with me the most. It's the one that like. I don't know. For some reason, at that point in my life, it struck a chord with me.
Landed right. Okay.
So I have I have a huge appreciation for Wes Anderson.
So
I'm not
a pool of Wes Anderson.
Yeah, I'm not going to have like a wedding themed after Wes Anderson. But I tend to gravitate towards directors that have a very specific style,
distinct,
a lot of times and especially when it's something like him where there's just so much attention to detail in the tiny.
And there's a lot of charm.
Minutia.
There's a lot of charm in it.
There is. And I completely understand if his style is not your thing. I get that. But for me, bringing it back to like Grand Budapest, right? Like I think this one, where this one kind of takes the Wes Anderson style and kind of ups it a little bit is the playing with like the film format of like the ultra wide for the 70s stuff. The like 16:9, not anamorphic for the modern day, if you will, the 80s stuff.
Yeah.
And then the 4:3 for the 1920s, 30s,
yeah.
that stuff. So like he plays with that more and his camera work in this one a lot more than I think what you're seeing in this movie is a lot of the evolution of his style.
Well, and
from other stuff.
he does so much miniature work in this.
I loved it.
That it really adds to a lot of the charm of like his style in the film.
Yeah.
Where like, I mean, he's done miniature work before this, like in Life Aquatic and everything, but this, I think he really upped the game.
Oh, for sure.
To really, like, it was like, a lot of it was just perfect.
When I feel like Fantastic Mr. Fox was his first stop motion movie.
It was, yeah.
And I feel like that probably gave him a lot of experience
Unlocks
with like
the ability of how to do this. How to set
everything's
this
a
up.
miniature,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, so I think that probably got him in a headspace or in at least a filmmaking working technique, thing to really take it to the next level. I love all the characters in this. I think that's for me one of the biggest hallmarks of a Wes Anderson movie isn't just like the quirkiness and
It's like the motifs of the characters.
It's that you have all these really weird, unique people, and then they all are like somewhat broken and flawed, but they all fit together in like this weird way where like you have the character
his characters feel very similar to me to Kurt Vonnegut characters in books, where they all feel like they're very lived in. Like a lot of classic characters, they just like you go to fantasy or comics, they arise, their parents are dead, they have one main point and everything revolves around this one point. It's like that's not really real life, like Bruce Wayne doesn't wake up every morning about his parents. Like this morning he got up out of bed and he stubbed his toe. Today's problem is the stupid toe, and why is this furniture right here?
And that's the thing is like Wes Anderson's characters have always been very nuanced and like they have so much depth to them without any kind of like real exposition of like what they're about.
They show a lot.
Yeah.
Well, and like when you look at like the relationship developed between Gustav and Zero, right? Over the course of the movie, it does not follow a traditional arc of what you would think, like, oh, it's going to go here, then here.
It's got lots of little zigzags in it.
It's a moving, I don't know, an evolving
it's a
thing.
blob.
And it kind of does that with a lot of the characters. Like you get shades of extra revelations about them in like these what would in some movies be like a throwaway scene.
Well, it's very much so a vignette, essentially.
Yeah.
A little sideshow.
Stephen, what did you think about it?
So I am disappointed that y'all are telling me that this is, or at least from Andrew's perspective, this is his favorite, that this is pretty high on Ryan's list.
Yeah.
Because I love this film, and I don't like the concept that I may have started at the top.
Yeah, you may have hit the top and then have to go down.
I mean,
I had a lot of fun with this.
Now, I'll definitely say this.
Yeah.
Every Wes Anderson film is very different than the other ones that came before it or after it. Like, they have very specific plot and story goals and designs of how the movie's laid out.
Okay.
Right.
it's not like you're going to go into like Moonrise Kingdom and be like, oh, this is just like Grand Budapest Hotel.
No.
Completely
Completely
Well, that's
different.
cool. That at least means you have, even though the style may feel very
Yes.
familiar and similar,
Yes.
that at least means there's something different to get into.
There
100%.
absolutely is.
Yeah.
Because, like, y'all know me. Anytime you throw some whimsy, some weird at me, like, I'm in, right?
Yeah.
You should go through his whole back
kind of-
catalog. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I don't like quirky because quirky feels forced.
Uh-huh.
I want to be a little weird.
Yeah.
And also the whimsy of like the hotel, right? The whimsy around that,
Yeah.
and the concept of through the years, et cetera, et cetera. I love that.
I will say his earlier movies have a little less whimsy just because the budgets were lower. He didn't
There's only
have.
so much you can do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's real locations,
Well, saying that, I mean, the budget here, $25 million.
Right. No,
My God.
I think I've
In
always
2014.
appreciated Wes for like he's one of those filmmakers that does a lot with a little, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it can be a static shot in a single room with a person looking deadpan at the camera, but so much more happens in that
Yeah.
frame
Yes.
than an entire scene from another movie.
Well, it's
you
got
know?
kind of almost a Ghibli feel to it, where in a lot of movies, your background is just like it's darkness, or it's like a sharp contrast light, or maybe there's a little bit. There's stuff in the background. There's always
Well,
stuff
there's
in the
always
background.
things happening, and the thing that I love about his movies is there's always a story within a story for everything that's happening, not with our main characters.
Someone
Right.
always has something else going
Yeah,
on.
there's always
Right.
something, just small little minutia that like if you don't catch it, that's fine. But if you do, it just adds one more layer to the
Yeah.
world that he's building, and it's fantastic. It's very similar to Miyazaki
Yeah.
and Ghibli films because they're just so hard up on
Well,
making sure that these details are there.
It has a definite feel
Yeah.
where when you are introduced to the quote unquote main character, they don't just feel like a main character in a film. They feel like another person going about their day while all these other people are going about their life around
Right.
them.
Yeah.
Well, what
Which is
happens
kind of it's nice. It gets you away from like the classic hero's journey or any of that kind of stuff.
When you have these ostensibly minor characters that may be only in a few scenes, but even the scenes they're in, there's like a mini arc of
Yeah.
like you get either a hint
they
at
get
their
a moment.
past.
They get a moment to shine.
And
Or-
we'll get some more into that when we go past the spoiler wall because
Yeah.
Cross the
there's
spoiler
like two characters
threshold.
that I absolutely love in this movie.
Yeah.
Wow, just two.
Well, I mean, like
Well,
I like
they're
all
like
of them,
small,
but
yeah.
specifically just the small little bit parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, which,
So,
again,
what I would
huge
say to you,
cast.
Steven, if like in terms of other Wes Anderson movies, is like they all have a similar aesthetic to a degree and a similar
Like he frames things kind of
Yes.
the same way. He has the same kind of cuts.
and the
that kind of
humor
thing.
is very dry and kind of like that weird stuff all the way. So like that's good, but like there are certain Wes Anderson movies that hit harder for me again because the subject matter is more
Like
to my
Darjeeling
liking.
Limited is definitely one of those.
Right? Yeah, like
like
that
this,
one.
this feels
yeah.
kind of like a safe film in the sense that there isn't, and this could be a negative too. I don't know. There isn't like one story thread that's like heavy emotional. Like you're heavily emotionally attached to, because I just there's nothing to relate to here per
Yeah.
se. But it just kind of flows along and you enjoy it. Whereas you maybe a different story, you have a different there's a relationship with their mother. It's like, oh, I can kind of I fit with that a little
So
more. Than,
you would definitely like Moonrise Kingdom.
okay?
That's just my general guess right there, knowing you.
I think the key to me, and this is just an uneducated assumption, but I think a lot of it is like there's a lot of family dynamics and a lot of found family and a lot of like friendships in a lot of his movies.
Well,
And
this is very found family.
when
here.
you have one that hits close to what you went through
Yeah.
on something, all of a
Oh, it
sudden
just-
another layer
Gates
unlocks.
open.
yeah.
Yeah. Whereas like someone else watching that same film may not have
like,
had
yeah,
that
it's just kinda
dynamic with
fun.
their brother or something,
Yeah.
so they don't have the same reaction,
Yeah.
That's fair.
All right, if you want to be part of a secret society that has each other's backs, bonded by a unifying goal of listening to Spoilers
this. This was
Intended,
good.
This is solid. Yeah.
then I got a website that you need to check out. It's called spoilersintendedpodcast.com. There, you can find links to all of our previous episodes. Join a brotherhood of other listeners, a secret society, if you will, that should not be secret anymore. if you check out the links on that website, you'll find our Discord,
Where you can come and interact with your fellow society brothers
Yes.
and sisters. Have conversations. They can be private. We've got spoiler threads in there where if you want to discuss a show and not everyone gets spoiled by it, we've got that in there. If you want to come check out what people are making for dinner. I want to see your pet.
So just like every secret society, you have to have a pyramid scheme, and our pyramid scheme is you need to go to our social accounts, follow them, and then share them to your friends, so then they can share them to their friends, and then they can share them to their friends. And we have a Facebook and an Instagram. Those are the only two we got, and there you go. That's your goal.
Alrighty, and we are back. We have ridden the train past actually to the spoiler wall. Then we took the chain lift up to the spoiler wall and the stairs down on the other side.
Yes,
absolutely. Maybe a bobsled.
In true Wes Anderson fashion.
Oh, absolutely. All right, so let's kick this off with a little bit of trivia.
Okay.
So, speaking about that budget, in order to save on money, the cast stayed in the same hotel where it was shot.
Oh, nice.
I'm gonna butcher this hotel's name, and I'm just gonna commit to it. Okay. This is the Hotel Bors in Gorlitz, Germany.
In where?
Gorlitz, Germany.
Gorlitz.
Borscht
and Gorlitz.
Borscht. It's not Borscht, it's Bors.
Bors.
B-O-R. It's like horse, but with a B.
Bors.
Bors.
That's more like Eastern European at that point.
It is very, So all the makeup and costume fittings happened in the lobby of the hotel.
Oh, nice.
That's
if you
wild.
Want to know how he saved money.
That's why it's only $25 million.
So this was the highest grossing independent film of 2014.
Not surprising.
Which I believe.
I mean, this was really big when it came out.
Yeah.
So let's see. So Saoirse, who plays Agatha, Anderson recalls her asking what accent she should use for the character. He said, well, Rafe is speaking like an English person, and Jeff is speaking like Jeff Goldblum, and Tony is speaking in the accent of Anaheim, and we have German actors with German accents, so I guess Irish. So this was the first time she had acted with her native accent.
Oh, really?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That is
so
awesome.
It just beat out. She had another film that came out in 2015 where she plays another Irish.
Yeah.
But it just beat that out.
Nice.
So I thought that was kind of cool. But it was also funny to me because I was just watching it and like, there's no real, like, we're in a place.
Do you think Wes Anderson realized in that moment that he hadn't really given it? He's like,
well, you don't know.
He's talking
really
like this, and he's talking like that.
And Jeff Goldblum's just Jeff Goldblum.
I guess just do you.
Yeah. So the fictional republic of Zabroka was named after a Polish vodka.
Oh,
okay.
Nice.
Yeah. Good.
Nice.
We know where some of the money went.
A good, strong Polish vodka.
Now, to be fair, I've been over to Poland, and they have some fantastic vodka.
Oh, do they really?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Nice.
We were at a tournament, and our friends from England basically brought us out to a bunch of bars one night,
As they do.
and
because they're English.
I was very hungover the next morning. It was a big team tournament against a bunch of different countries.
Yeah.
This is
And
their
that
secret
was
play.
that was their strategy to get us hungover.
How
it
many
worked.
countries
And it
out there
worked
hung
With a
out?
plum.
I still beat them though. So it's
Oh,
Hey.
All right. So going back to Ryan's point, the movie was shot in 3 different aspect ratios. So it's 1.37, 1.85, and 2.35 all to 1 to represent the 3 distinct timelines of 1985, 1968, and the 1930s.
It does such a good job with that too.
And it really helps frame the concept of where you are, rather than like like a Bond film where it tells you Russia.
Yeah.
1970 or whatever, like. So let's see. So we played in our ad break here, Moonshine or Moonshines. So the soundtrack features a rare instrument, the balalaika. Guarantee I butchered that. It's a
That's
3-stringed, triangular-shaped Russian folk instrument.
Okay.
Nice.
So it features in Down the Ski Slopes and then Moonshines. Moonshines. Let's wrap this one up. So Wes Anderson hired a St. Bernard off the streets of Gorlitz, including his owner, who was in the scene as the handler, meaning they didn't have to hire an animal wrangler.
This guy knows how to save a buck.
Hold on. In Wes Anderson's own words, I hope that's legal.
See, this is what happens when you have an indie filmmaker and they get like kind of a budget. They're like, I'm not using all that. We got this guy over here with a dog. He said he'd do it. He gave me a thumbs up. That's a permission, right?
So you know where the budget went to. So Wes Anderson sent several of the cast and crew robes modeled after the hotel's color scheme.
Ooh, cool.
And Jeff Goldblum wears his every day, saying, "It's my favorite robe."
I mean,
that's awesome.
That's just a Jeff Goldblum.
This goes back to my point of like once you have this coterie of actors, they all want to show up because they have fun and they get cool
Coterie of
stuff.
actors.
Yeah.
So final trivia: the scene in which Ludwig says "Good luck, kid" before slapping Zero across the face. was shot 42 times.
Oh my gosh.
This is the flip side of Wes Anderson. He was slapped every single shot.
I mean, that's the thing. When you want it right, you got to get it right.
You gotta get it right.
You know what? Just get in there and beat the crap out of the kid. See if I can. All right.
Harvey Keitel's like, I'll do it gladly.
Oh,
Let me slap
with
his
pleasure.
Yeah.
Welcome to the real world, kid.
Bow.
All right. So let's get in some spoiler thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think this movie is just pretty fantastic.
Well, tell me why.
Well, I really like the time period that it's set in for the main story, where it's kind of basically the analog for German.
Fictional, but it's essentially the run up to World War II.
Yes,
Right, yeah.
But it has a lot of the same, like the confrontation on the train, where Gustav, accuses him of being fascist. He gets the crap beaten out of him.
Yeah.
And then all the people, Edward Norton
Henkels.
shows up.
Henkels is his name.
Henkel. But Edward Norton shows up and bails
That's
him
just
out.
such a Wes Anderson scene too. Where it's like, I'm terribly sorry about that. Like,
Yeah, he's so polite.
Apologize to the man.
Apologize.
Yeah.
Now get out of his sight. Go on. Go.
So the thing that I like about it too is it's a very disarming film in the sense of, because it's kind of like this charming, earnest movie.
Yeah.
And then it's hyper violent for what it
Incredible
is.
It is,
violence,
yeah.
And they all
Yeah.
revolve around Willem Dafoe.
It really
Well,
does.
let me tell you.
Oh,
He
man.
was just like, I'm going to show up with a motorcycle jacket, a gun, and a flask.
Oh,
and
that
a-
little
and
flask
attitude.
jacket thing.
I
he's
know.
got.
That jacket's
It's so
cool.
I love whenever he pulls it out and he just rips it off.
That's the first time I was like, I have to find this jacket.
And you find one, you're like, it's $600. I can't do it.
Yeah.
But
But
he's-
his character, like, too, like, you got to wonder, like, how much direction did Wes Anderson give Willem Dafoe? Or was he like, just be weird?
Just get out there.
Just do your thing.
Like, I dressed you this morning, Willem. You understand who you're supposed to be. Now get out there.
I need you to look
Right?
at the jacket and know your name is Jopling. Act.
well, so
It's just-
I mean, like that
Chaos.
feels.
Willem showed up with his own jacket. Wes didn't have enough budget for it. Willem's like, I got this from my closet. Oh, that's perfect.
Well,
This is probably legal. Go for
I
it.
guarantee you that's what he does with Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, sure.
Absolutely.
He's just like, you are a lawyer, you're an estate lawyer or officiant or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, like an
He's an executor.
Executor.
there
Yeah,
we
that's
go,
the word. Yeah.
You're an executor of a state. You have an attachment to your cat, and there you go.
And you're by the book,
By the
by the
book,
letter.
yeah.
So there was I didn't include it in the
Did he
trivia.
just
There
throw my
was-
cat out the window? Like, that's such a crazy scene where it's like this horrible thing happens because you are going like, did he just throw the cat out the? And then Jeff goes, did he just throw my cat out the window?
Yeah.
And then it unravels.
Yeah, I do think obviously a little warning there. That scene didn't sit great with my wife. For
I mean,
it doesn't sit great with me. I'm like, ugh. Well, especially since like watching it happen, I'm like, cat should be fine. Honestly,
yeah.
Cat fried just ran off.
Then it's part of the story just because it's
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
But even like when Jeff Goldblum loses his fingers, so the first time I saw
when that
this,
happened, I was
I
like,
was not
"What?"
expecting that because Wes Anderson, traditionally doesn't have like a ton
Any
of
kind of like violence.
Oh, okay.
or-
So I
mean,
was
there's
actually
some in
wondering. I
his
was like,
older stuff,
is
but
all
not-
his films like this, where it's just suddenly like hyper violent, and then it goes back
Not
to
really.
No, not at all.
Like what?
Yeah. Like people die, like things happen in his movies and all, but
yeah, like people get injured and stuff.
when his digits just go lopping off his finger, I was like, whoa. But it's not like obsessively gory.
No,
you know,
no,
like it's
not
not
at
like
all.
it doesn't revel
It's
in
not
it
like Kill
it's not
Bill
like
or
Saw
something.
or
So-
like
But it's funny though because like the other scene that is just so violent in just in my mind is when they're escaping from the prison and then they open up the little like hatch.
Oh, yeah.
and,
And all the
and the dude
soldiers,
just jumps
yeah.
down
that
there
dude
and
just like puts his knife in his mouth and
This
just
is
goes,
my
and you're
part
like,
of the job, boys.
what's happening? And then it's like you see him like with his last gasp of breath.
doing like the Saving Private Ryan move in there
Yeah.
with the stab.
Yeah, but it's definitely it's one of those where like it's so disarming that when it happens you're like, oh,
Because everything
yeah.
up to this point has been so charming, right?
Yeah.
And then it's
Yeah.
just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, this is a very charming prison break. Everyone has their little role.
Well,
He's handing out the slop.
I love that the one of my little bit character parts is the dude that he gives the slap to.
The big dude.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then he kills the other guy
Who's
in
gonna
the cell.
snitch.
Who's
He's
gonna-
gonna
yeah.
snitch, which is just it's a fantastic like he's in there for what maybe 20 seconds of the whole
Tops.
movie.
It's like two
Yeah.
shots real
Yeah.
quick. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about with Wes Anderson movies, where there would be these little tiny bit players that in any other movie this
just-
would have been just like
Just
a
an
throwaway.
irrelevant person.
Yeah.
Or they
But-
wouldn't even film the scene. You never know.
Yeah, but it has this twist to it that makes it like that guy's awesome. You know?
Oh, yeah. Got their
So who's your
backs.
other?
Yeah, you had to
the other bit part that I really liked was Christopher or William Dafoe. Wow, not Christopher Walken.
Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
William Dafoe,
Well
just
known.
because like he never really speaks or anything, and just like
He's
he
crazy.
just walks around just being intimidating.
He's just imposing.
He's
yeah.
also one of those, like, he never really runs per se.
Yeah.
He just walks menacingly.
He does. He's
Yeah.
like
It's-
Frankenstein.
Well, I was going to go with
The-
Halloween or something like that.
the
but yeah.
shots on the motorcycle, the tracking shots through the city.
they're
I'm
great.
like, oh, this is great. Like every time that happens, I'm like, when it's behind him and in front of him, I was
Yep.
like, this is.
Well, there are a
Mwah.
lot of kind of like slide shots where
Yeah.
it's on a dolly from the side and they just kind of slide
does that
from
a lot,
one
yeah.
set to the next, which one, really like that. It's one of those things where, in the era we're in, right, there are all the AI generated YouTube videos of like Star Wars in the style of Wes Anderson. So you see a couple of those and like, exactly what you're going to get. And he's like, oh, he did the thing.
He did the thing that he does. Yeah.
Well, so and this is the thing too. Whenever you see people that like I'll say imitate Wes Anderson, whether in parody or in earnest,
yeah.
it's one of those where like they still just don't have it.
It's just not
No.
quite there.
Yeah, it's like
Interesting.
Yeah.
it's just kind of like this is kind of like the La Croix of Wes Anderson because
Yeah.
he just adds so much
Someone
detail.
in the other room is going, Wes Anderson.
Yeah. It's like Wes Anderson parked next to me once. I can do this. It's just like, yeah.
But that's the thing is like people think it's just like you just deadpan
It's a
center
dolly
shot.
shot. How hard could it
but
be?
you
Yeah.
need all these extra little details in the background and
and he does this stuff with if it's the slide shot or it's the deadpan center shot, he does it with purpose. When it happens, it ties to a story beat that
Somewhere else,
is
yeah.
it
it's not
resonates
just
for a reason.
superfluous, just
It's
this
not
is
like he's
what
just
it
going,
is.
okay, and now we need a slide pan. It's when he does that slide in some of his movies. I'm trying to remember an exact shot from this one, but like he'll
Life
stay
Aquatic.
on a shot for a long time, and you don't realize it's about to be a slide shot.
Yeah.
and then when it slides,
And then like a character goes to walk through a door and just whoop.
you see what, and now
Yeah.
you're like, oh, and like it like reveals more. So I don't know. I think a lot of people that make fun of his style, like you're saying, like it ends up coming off as just kind of like a pastiche or like
Yeah.
like a fake. Like it's you got the mechanics, but you don't have the purpose of what was happening.
Yeah.
The other thing I was gonna say with Willem Dafoe's character of Jopling, I love when Zero pushes him off the cliff. Because it's like you kind of know something's gonna happen,
Yeah.
But it's the quickness with which it happens.
Well, and
like
then
it feels
also-
like he's interrupting something, and it's like it like falls so fast.
like Gustav's like, it's about time, boy. Or
I know,
whatever.
yeah.
Like, been waiting for you to do that.
Well, and
Yeah.
like Rafe does such a fantastic job at portraying just this like morally ambiguous but very
Oh, absolutely.
codified
Oh,
person.
I mean, like, got this like
Yeah.
own like little code of like chivalry with a twist or something going on here.
Yeah, there's like a an air of like dignity of like this is what we do, and then he does all these undignified things
Things.
also.
but at the
you
same
know?
time, get your handkerchief out. This is what we do.
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Well, and I like the little bit at the or towards the end of the movie where you have the secret society of concierges.
Oh yeah.
that just
what is
like
it? Of the keys or something
yeah,
like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Keeper of the keys, I think,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something, and it just keeps going down the line and down the line and down the line.
You got your Bill Murray
You got the
cameo
Bill
in
Murray
there,
cameo,
yeah,
Yeah, of
in there.
course.
There's a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah,
But
but
there's just a lot of really fun. Like, it's funny because like there is a coherent plot to this story, right?
There is.
But I feel like it's almost like the film is made up of moments where the camera opens and stuff happens, and then it closes, and then it opens again, and we're in a different place, and other stuff happens, and then it closes, and then you keep doing that, and as you go, it builds into something.
Yeah.
Which I think it's a very fascinating way to watch a film.
I think too, like for some people that probably have trouble with that with Wes Anderson movies, it's because the plot isn't immediately clear. Like
Yeah.
You gotta-
all of
you
a
gotta
sudden
stick with it for a minute.
Yeah, like you're getting these vignettes, you're meeting these characters, you're seeing this stuff happen, and then all of a sudden there's just this one moment that happens, and you realize, oh, I'm emotionally invested in these characters.
He's got me.
When
Yeah.
did that happen? And you're like, it's like you're not
It
even
sneaks up
aware.
on you.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
like
because
I'm getting worried about Jeff Goldblum.
Well, like-
midway through that film, I'm like, wait, what's gonna happen to Jeff? Hey, Jeff, where are you going? Where are you going?
yeah,
don't get into the museum
Don't go
where
to the
no one's
museum.
there.
It's
I know.
closing in 15 minutes.
Well, and I love like the scene where Ray finds Gustav breaks out, and then like he starts like going off on Zero, and then Zero's like has his whole confession, like I moved here because my family was
I'm a refugee,
I'm a
and, like,
refugee,
and
and he just lays it all out, and you're like you start like
he's
getting
like
choked up.
blasting him for being an immigrant. Also,
Yeah.
well, then you're a refugee. Well, that changes everything.
Yeah, and then he immediately apologized. I take back everything I just said. And it's
I'm terribly sorry.
But it's that moment where like you realize that like these two dudes love each other. They care, but they really don't know each other super deep. And like you feel bad for both of them. You're like, oh my gosh, like y'all need to just be buddies. Stop it. So that's another one of those points where like you don't realize how invested you are in these tiny little characters until that hits, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, like because that very scene in another movie from a different director would have played out way dramatically.
Yeah, like overly dramatic.
They would
melodrama.
There would have been a blowout. They would have like separated, not been talking, and
the
then
music would have like gone somber.
Yeah. Instead, I immediately apologize. It's like that
then
quick.
The best part though is then you hear the sirens, and you're like the whole time as the audience, you're like, dude.
Get out of the car. Stop worrying about the stupid perfume.
Yeah. I really love the music in this movie too.
Oh man, the music. Yeah. One, it's a earworm or a ear bite.
Ear bite, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. It sticks with you, right? Like, and honestly, again, going back to the Moonshine, the traditional. Yeah, play that.
Yeah,
play that.
Yeah.
So listening to it, you know what part of it is? I think that's in there, and it fits because it also came from Russia.
Yeah.
It's Tetris.
Oh,
there is a lot of Tetris in this.
There is.
So Tetris, I bet, because I mean, it's a Russian. Design.
Yeah, it is.
Developer. Yeah. So I bet that's where the Tetris music comes from. Is this
kind of style?
This style of music.
Yeah.
Oh man, I never even thought about that. Maybe that's why I find it so addicting.
But like that's Tetris right there.
Yeah. Yeah, because it has that kind of like stomping beat to it, and I just like.
It's not so much the chord progression; it's like the rhythm and the cadence between the notes. The blocks coming down.
I can see it.
God, it's the 3-1.
I can see the square, and you turn it. You're like, why did I turn it? It's still a square.
What am I doing?
It's just spinning for no reason.
Yeah.
But I think the music is fantastic in this movie.
I love it.
And the thing is too, they don't have just like one or two themes and they only use those. There's so many bits in here that really just layer on top to it that one work for the scene, but then also work as the whole kind of like overarching part of the film.
Well, I feel like what they do too is that like a lot of the songs sound unique, but they sound like they work together.
Yeah.
Like they have a purpose.
Well,
they stitch together in a good way.
They fit what feels almost like a culture, which is weird because this is based, it's named after a Polish vodka.
Yeah.
It's based somewhere in Eastern Europe, but this is Russian. And then we have some other elements running around there, and it still all flows together, just works.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, cool. Like I'm in. We've made up a fantasy land, but I can immediately identify it.
Yeah.
Based on the times and like what we're seeing here around.
Yeah.
It has a distinct personality that like feels right. It makes sense instead of it being like, well, that's a weird song that feels out of place, and why is this over here? It just congeals.
Well, and I don't know. Maybe that's just Wes Anderson. Again, as someone who's seen one of them, maybe that's just his films.
It's a lot of his movies.
The
like
miniature, taken at face value, a lot of the miniature work. And if that was in Star Wars, we'd all just be like, ugh. Like
but
it's not.
It
doesn't fit that style.
It's not meant to be good per se, but the way it's presented and used fits the style. Like it just flows together.
It's meant to be stylistic on purpose. Yeah.
Well, and on that note, like the miniature work that he does, particularly of the hotel and like the sky cars and everything, chairlifts, it's just it's so detailed and really tactile.
And I really like the way that they'll have the miniatures, but then they also use the shadows, like of Zero going across the rooftops that are obviously miniatures, but they also have him going, and it's like, wait, was that actually? Hold on, this is almost like a stage play. Where you had like a spotlight up in the balcony, but you just stood in front of it to cast the shadow real quick.
Yeah.
So there's a really cool, and I'll find the video and I'll post it in the Discord whenever we do this episode, or release this episode.
Yeah.
But there's a really cool video that goes over a lot of how they. Not specifically for this movie, but
his methods in general.
Doing like the miniature work and everything like that. It came out for Asteroid City, but there's no like spoilers in it. I don't.
No, it's just talking about
it's just talking about like how they make it and like how they have to scale up a lot of the stuff to shoot.
Do you remember back in the day? So I feel like, especially like Disney Channel stuff, right? We used to get lots of shows that would just be like behind the scenes of a film, like the making of Hocus Pocus or whatever, and they'd go into like all this different work. I feel like we don't get as much.
We don't
of that
really
anymore.
get that much
I
anymore.
really kind of hate that.
What I have noticed is that like since I got back into collecting physical media and getting like 4K Blu-rays, they have that stuff on the special features.
It's just on the special features.
But you have to manually go
you have to look for it. Like, and a lot of it, like you can find the stuff on YouTube that's out there. It's just like
you have to
people
search for
don't think to search for like the making of XYZ or behind the scenes XYZ.
I just miss like, well, again, not to be the old person I am. I miss the Discovery Channel where it was just like, hey, for this hour block, it's just movie magic.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
And it's just like, hey, here's like 4 different movies. Here's Jim Henson doing puppets. And you're like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And then it's like, here's Spielberg doing, the Jaws animatronics or whatever. It's like, wow, like this is all so cool.
So just back to Grand Budapest.
Back to the plot,
There's a section of miniatures in this of the city where they have basically 5 different scales of miniatures.
Oh yeah.
One
in
layered
order
on top
to
of
represent the layers.
To basically represent like the different distances of how far the shot would be and everything. But they're all like pretty much right next to each other in the actual studio.
Right.
But it's like one's like 1/1000 to 1/100th to 1/50th.
Yeah. They scale.
And they use like a telescope lens to really compress it. Yeah. Gosh, stuff like that.
It's a lot of cool stuff.
And those kind of techniques is not something that like everyone or any kind of director can just pick up and do.
Yeah, no. That takes time and work and knowing the right people too.
Well, I think where a lot of people look at Wes Anderson and kind of in a derogatory way are like, he's too artsy fartsy for me. He's too,
He's just as artsy fartsy as Christopher Nolan is,
just in a different way.
Yeah, every
but I feel like
director is artsy fartsy. How else do you get the job as a director?
Well, number one, come on, what's the point? But number two, I think it's because he has a very quirky, specific style.
Yeah.
And someone like Christopher Nolan makes movies that anyone can watch and kind of like get a grasp of.
You look at the Batman, like he did superhero movies, and then he also did like Oppenheimer. Like it's very. But I mean, from a
filmmaking standpoint, you can watch a Christopher Nolan movie and you're like, okay, I can kind of parse out he shot with a camera. When you watch the Wes Anderson stuff, to know that he had 5 levels of miniature and he shot with different lenses almost takes an extra layer of having used a camera yourself to fully appreciate the difficulty in that. You know what I mean? So like if you've used a camera, you have more of a fondness for and an appreciation for like, oh wow, this is cool. Like this is difficult what he's doing, as where like the average person like, so what? He shot a dollhouse. I don't get it. I do want to give a shout out.
Watching stop motion is always just mind blowing because when as soon as you see any behind the scenes that you're like, this is so much time.
This is years of their life.
And like if you mess something up, like I moved his foot a little too far.
I gotta start it all
over. That's a day's
over.
worth of work. We gotta bring it back.
Yeah.
I want to give a huge shout out to Tilda Swinton and the actually fantastic makeup job they did on her for like such a low budget. Like incredible. She looked crazy as the Duchess with that like.
So
Wes
Anderson.
I love you.
So Wes Anderson is quoted as saying, "We could have cast someone older, but I really wanted Tilda Swinton." And I think he said that he was able to get her to do the part for kind of cheap. So he's like, so we're going to pay the best people we can to do that makeup.
I told Tilda I'd buy her lunch, and she said, okay, that's legal, right?
Look, free hotel in Germany, and I don't know, we'll do a couple lunches. Whatever.
First off, like that they stayed at the hotel is like resonating with me because like imagine you're trying to get into character and all you got to do is walk out in the hallway. Or look around your room and you're immediately in the vibe of like this story in this location.
And I feel that kind of environment helps. To get into that kind of like pastiche of Wes Anderson style filmmaking because like I definitely feel that it's not like you're going to like a Marvel production.
Right. All green screens.
Yeah.
Hey, you're going to sit on a green block with a green background, hold something that's also green, and
talk
to a
nonsense.
dude wearing green who has a billboard on his forehead telling where his eyes actually are.
Yeah.
And also, how are you supposed to get into that?
I feel like even though the Jude Law and F. Murray Abraham sections aren't as big as the main story with like
but
Ray
Fiennes. They feel so sweet though.
They do. Like they have in their own little pocket
charm,
universe that happens in the middle there. Like they have enough charm and emotion there to where you're like, oh man, like I kind of care about this story too. Can we get a spinoff that's like this?
Yeah. Well, and like the kind of there's tragedy there, right? Like he loses Agatha not long after they're married.
Right. Yeah.
And obviously he I'm pretty sure he even says like, how could there be anyone else after that or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, like I want some of that too. Like, man.
Well, and it has like for as fantastical and fake as some parts of it feel, because it's like it's not a real country.
But that feels really real.
That feels like real life. That feels like, not everything has a fairy tale ending,
Well, and the thing is too that I think that he did a fantastic job with is we know just through just general context clues that Agatha does not survive. At least up until
at some point, we don't know how quick
we don't know if she dies in the story or she dies afterwards, and there's enough danger for her in this. You're like, I kind of worry about this.
Yeah, when they said they got the girl's head or whatever, and you're like, oh man, they got Agatha.
Also, that's what a plot pull too, because like they introduced the sister briefly, and then like we're worried about Agatha. It looks like she's been snatched.
Yeah.
And we got her head. It's like, oh my gosh, if we kill the sweet baker girl, I'm going to be kind of
mad about this. Got brought into this.
Yeah, she's got pulled in. It's the sister.
Don't flirt with her.
Also, that line is incredible.
I love it.
Oh my gosh. The chemistry on that is so good.
I know. And it's one of those things that like that for me is like a Wes Andersonism. It's like such a quirky line. Don't flirt with her. And it keeps coming back. And by the end of it, when you've seen the breadth of their journey, you're just like, that makes it so like sweet that it's like, don't flirt with her.
Well, it's something that, if Ludwig was saying it'd be a threat, right?
Right.
Obviously, Zero can't threaten as much as he might want to in that moment. It's not really a threat to Gustav.
Yeah.
So it goes from being like a threat to almost an endearing phrase between them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where like he's talking up, my girlfriend, my future wife so much, and like I agree everything, but don't flirt with her. Like, hey, you're saying great things, but don't flirt with her.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh. We could go on for a long time on the Selma thing.
We could.
Yeah.
But I think we are kind of winding down a little bit.
We are, yeah.
But before that happens, favorite scene.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's right, boys. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
I think mine is the escape from prison, like from the beginning to the end of like the escape that ends with them, having the apology to each other, and then the escape, like the sirens go off and they leave, like the start of like let's go boys, and they go under the table to that. That's my favorite section right there.
I think mine would have to be the final chase with Joplin and them like going down
like
the slope,
the bobsled and the
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, because like it's they get on the sled and he's like, you need to slow down. It's like, I can't slow down. We're just on this.
I can barely steer it. Yeah.
And I just like the use of like the miniatures and that kind of stuff, and just how
like sped up camera work
and the sped up it looks. But and also that realization of like, I can't stop this. Like, we're just gonna go and see where this takes us. And they're just both like, okay, and they commit. And they just keep going. What about you, Steve?
Oh man, it's hard. It's really hard to pick something here. Honestly, I think basically everything that has Jeff Goldblum in it.
It's all very good.
He's fantastic. When he's reading the will for the first time.
So Wes actually like said, there's not a whole lot of actors who you can be like, here's a paragraph, get out there and own it, right?
Right.
And Goldblum does it more than once when he reads the will, and also when he does the whole like to Adrian Brody and the sisters, he's like, well, there are
problems or issues,
and he starts going through it, and it's just the camera's just on him, and he's just talking.
It's also the cadence that which he reveals the information has its own like momentum and drama, and like you don't have to do a whole lot of editing and camera work to make that work.
And that's just paramount to Jeff Goldblum as an actor.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't understand that he's an extremely good actor. They just think of him as this meme, like, from Jurassic Park. And it's like, he's just the accent. It's like, no, like when you see this guy really going after it, acting.
But it's the same thing, like going to Jurassic Park, right? It's the same thing with the whole chaos in the cup of water and the water drops. Like in that sequence, when he is talking to Dr. Sadler, like he just kind of takes over the whole sequence. Like he's 100%. Just been kind of a presence in the back.
I just want to review Jurassic Park.
Let's do it right now in media res. Let's start it. Welcome to the Jurassic Park review.
No, gosh. Yeah. We have already taken up enough time.
So, would you rewatch it, Stephen? Being this your first Wes Anderson movie?
Yeah, absolutely. And nice. I want to probably pull out a few others just to see them. Yeah. But yeah, this will be on a list to rewatch. Not immediately. You want to let
you want to give it some time.
Rest a little, right?
So the three that I would recommend.
Okay.
For you be Moonrise Kingdom, Fantastic Mr. Fox, just because those, I know that you would probably like both of those. And then either Royal Tenenbaums or maybe Asteroid City. again, Asteroid City was a good film, but I think like it's too Wes Anderson.
Fair enough.
I haven't seen it yet, so
I'm intrigued by Life Aquatic.
And Life Aquatic is good too.
Just boats. I like boats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simple. I'm a simple
But
person.
I'm a simple man. I see boat, I float.
You would really like Fantastic Mr. Fox as well.
I don't doubt that. Yeah, because that's the heavy miniatures.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's all
stop motion.
Oh yeah, let's go.
It's really good.
Love me some stop motion.
Andrew,
guys?
would you rewatch it?
Oh, absolutely.
I think that was basically understood.
Yeah. I think this is a fantastic movie.
All right. Well, I think on that note, Ryan, you're also in the rewatch boat.
Obviously, yeah. Like I've only watched this a few times. Like it's probably one of my least watched Wes Anderson's, just because it's one of his more recent ones. And I feel like I wore out some of his earlier ones as soon as I caught it, because it was like first time you watch it, you're like, oh wow. Second time, I'm watching every shot,
little detail.
Yeah, looking for details. Third time, I'm just enjoying it again. Fourth time, I'm back to the details.
Okay. Well, on that note, I think we've given a pretty hefty recommendation for this film.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen any Wes Anderson, this is probably a good place to start.
It is,
from my own
definitely.
personal experience.
Yeah.
But before we go,
Yep.
we need to promote the Patreon.
We always have to talk about Patreon. For just $1 a month, you can get access to all of our bonus episodes, bonus content like commentaries and Patreon picks, polls, and all that kind of stuff. We have some fantastic ones that we've done. We have a great trivia episode or game show where we are basically doing, me and Ryan are going back and forth about...
So I gave out four movies all from the same year.
I was trying to think of how to describe what we did.
So I give them four movies all from the same year, and they have to be the first to buzz in and pick which one had the highest international gross box office.
Yes.
And if they want more points, give me the year.
Yes.
And let me tell you, that comes into huge play. It is a much tighter battle than any of us thought it was going to be.
So it's like a box office quiz episode. That one was good.
Yeah.
Also, if you like James Bond at all, we have like one where we went back and forth on like the Bond openings.
Oh man,
like
almost
songs.
came to blows while I cackled in the corner.
We have one where we rank the James Bond actors of like who did Bond best. That's a wild.
And
wild
I mean, if you
episode.
want to just get wild and wacky, we just pulled up presidential portraits and decided if we could take them in a fight or not. So just $1. If you can't spare the dollar, we totally understand.
Yep.
There's other great ways to help support the show. If you would leave us a review on your podcast provider of choice.
Yeah.
Obviously, Apple's, iTunes,
Spotify.
They all help a ton bubbling it up.
Yeah.
But just share us with a friend. You see one of our posts on socials, share it, leave a comment. Any of that helps.
Yeah.
It would make such a big difference.
All right. Well, on that note, I do believe that is all the time we have for this episode. So until next time, I'm Steven.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Ryan.
And every spoiler was intended.